Hello everyone, we are live yet again, and this is one of my authors' chats of the week, and I know I've been doing double duty last week as well as will be this one, but that's because the holidays are around the corner and I will be taking off, so I wanted to make sure I got enough of my little lives in so that everybody can meet each other in the bookish community if you don't already know each other already. I feel like the more you're on Book Talk, the closer we all are together. And it's kind of fun that way. It's especially really neat when you get the opportunities to meet someone you met on, at least virtually, all of a sudden face to face. And I've done that a few times with various authors on here, and that's a lot of fun. But as I wait to kind of get in to see if when my co-host logs on, but yeah. That's why we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, everything in between, because this is Book Talk. And it's been pretty cool. I've been working on finding a new balance, and that's the thing. Hey! Finding a new balance between the fact that I recently launched my own bookshop, so I can sell direct, and trying to find the new time that what that means is if and when I get orders, I have to now carve out extra time to fulfill them, because it's not just putting a book in a box and sending it out. It's there's a lot more that I do by direct, but balance is everything. And I still have to find time to write and edit and all that other fun stuff. Hello? Can you hear?
Hi, can you hear me?
You're a little faint. I know what the issue is this time, I think. Try it again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I do not see you. There you go. Hello.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I haven't. I've been wanting to talk with you for a while, especially now that I've been seeing all your really cool little packages you've been sending out to
Yeah.
people, because they look super phenomenal. But we'll get to that in a moment. But hi.
Hey, P, how you doing?
I was actually just starting this off while I was waiting for you, talking about it's always so much fun to actually meet someone face to face that you've prior, met virtually, and he's one of the people I had the pleasure to meet face to face, and amazing person. But back to you. So this is kind of always just low key and chill, and I always like my co-host to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you write.
Yeah, my name's Otto Schafer, and I think I've been on TikTok. Oh, it's almost probably 2 years now. And I started off writing YA contemporary fantasy. So, what that means is I write fantasy that happens in our world, and then I bring magic into it, bring mythical creatures into it. And I say YA because my characters are all in their teens, so it is a YA adventure. And then most recently, I've switched. Not that I won't write YA again, but I went to zombie apocalypse thriller, which is something that I've always wanted to write, and I finally got a chance to do that. And the book is doing very well, and I'm just couldn't be happier about it.
That's so much fun, and I'm definitely a person who likes to jump to different age brackets. I love fantasy, so anything that goes fantasy or the paranormal or anything, that's my jam. But so I do know it is a very different thing when you're starting with one series aimed for one type of reader, and then you jump over. But for you, it seems like that transition was pretty smooth, and you found readers like right away. But again, your marketing is phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that for me, it one thing I would say is I have a really good editor, and she has kept me on the straight and narrow. So when I was writing YA, and so for example, when you write YA, you can chop off somebody's arm, for example, but don't go into gory detail about it, right? So an adult, you can do more of that. And she would keep me on the straight and narrow, and she would say, "Hey, this is really great description, and you should really write an adult like horror book someday, because that would be really good. But for this, we need to tone it back." She would keep me in line in that way, which was fantastic. I still got to do the things I wanted to do, but maybe not be as descriptive about it. So now in the zombie thriller, I can do a little bit more gore, a little bit more, in those kind of fighting the zombie scenes that I like to do. So that's been helpful. And as far as transitioning, I really think that marketing a zombie thriller, I actually used Adam's cover designer, he actually put me on to Rafito, who I said to AP, I said, hey, I love your covers. Who designed them? And he put me in, hooked me up with a guy. Fantastic. And so what I have is a cover that says right away what you're going to be reading, a description that is clear, right, in the blurb. And I think marketing a zombie book is just, it seems for me right now, it's easier. I've been holding around 5,000 in the Amazon store with this book, and people look at it, they know what they're going to get. And it's been, YA fantasy contemporary is a little bit trickier, right? To find, the readers are there, but you've got to find them, and it's a little bit trickier. So.
Yeah, and I also think because there are so many books that are YA, it's hard to find the right niche reader for a YA series, because when you hear YA, there's like, again, branches and branches and branches and branches that trickle out of it. But when you say zombie apocalypse, immediately you either like it or you don't.
You know what you're getting with that, right? You see zombies on the cover, you know what you're getting. So now, specific to my zombie book is about a married couple who are not doing well in their marriage, and it's really breaking down. And one's keeping a secret from the other, and she suspects that it could be infidelity, and they're just they're in this really bad place, and we could say on the verge of a divorce, right? Due to some things that have happened. And so we kind of join our couple after a huge blowout fight, waking up that morning, and they both go their respective ways, which one works 30 minutes from home in one direction, and one goes to school 30 minutes from home in another direction. So they're in two different cities, and home is kind of in the middle. And while they're gone that day doing their thing, that's when the zombie apocalypse happens. So we spend a good part of the book, and I write in the style, and I did it through my whole fantasy series. And it's another one of those things, you probably love it or hate it, but I write from one POV. So let's say the female POV, and then I switch over male POV, and I go back and forth. That's how I do it. So and I also think that when you do a cliffhanger in a book, like when you do a cliffhanger at the end of a chapter, which doesn't belong in every chapter, but to make them effective when you do it, switching to another story line with another character's POV just increases that I want to know what happens next. Now I'm over here. And then you get to the end of that chapter and you're like, oh, I'm back over here. I get to find out what's happening here. So that's the way the story is told until inevitably the two stories, merge together. So that's the style that I wrote it in. And then what we find out is, not only is this a book, it's very character driven, but not only is it about zombies, which will have zombies, right? But it's about it's about family. It's about found family. There's a little girl named Journey who comes into play in the book when she's found by one of the characters, and then she's without a mom and dad, and so that character takes her on too. And so it's found family. It's, can these two mend a broken marriage in the midst of this apocalyptic time, right? So that's kind of the premise.
I love that. And again, it's always nice to have like something a little different that allows you to pop, because again, going back to certain like iconic genres, you say zombie apocalypse, people are like, yes, I know it. But in truth, there are so many ways you can tell that story. And that's really cool. And the fact that you were mentioning about like two different POVs, that when I hear multiple POVs, I think of something immediately like that could be a great TV show, because TV shows like to jump around, again, to build that angst, to build that while you're waiting to know what happened to character 1, character 2 is over here, and maybe character 3 is doing something else, and you're always like, wait, but I want to. So that's a great thing. And I also see that Adam's reading it right now, so there you go.
I'm just thanking him, and I see JC's on there. I want to make sure and say hello to JC. Thanks for jumping on here, JC. I think I saw some other people say hello too. I want to make sure we tell everybody hi, but hey, Joe.
And the fact that with lives, I never figure out why sometimes we can see each other's, like, the same comments, and sometimes we don't. So feel free at any point to pause and be like, enter a comment, note something, because I may not see it. Or I could just be missing it.
Yeah, and I just had a screen pop up, so now I can't see you.
It's fine. Hello.
It's like asking me survey questions. That's interesting.
But yeah, for the zombie thing, and I love that fact. Whoop, I think I lost you for a second. We'll see if I get him back. There we go. It's okay. There's always something that happens. At least it wasn't me today.
That was weird.
I got you back.
Uh, yeah, I got a survey in the middle of this, and then I couldn't, it wouldn't let me exit out. So I answered the question, and it took me to the next live show. So that was interesting.
Fun, fun. You'll be just hopping around through the lives.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, well, I'm trying to remember my train of thought. I was about to say something, and it was the fact that, again, jumping YA, and again, people have to understand young adult is 12 and up. So yes, there are certain things you don't want to write in a YA because some of the readers are fairly young, and versus something like you said, you can write a little grittier for older groups. And I totally get that because I'm working on 2 series simultaneously. One's YA fantasy, and one is definitely for adults. And again, one of the facts is my adult one, I can be as gritty as I want.
Yeah, that's right. And it's fun, right? You get to be a little bit like I like to swear, and there's lots of swearing in my zombie book because I feel like if I was being chased by a zombie or fighting for my life, I'm going to swear a lot. So try to keep it real. And it's nice to be able to do that. Now, I did spend, let's see, I published the book every year consistently. And remember, I'm still working a full-time career, but I published one book, and these fantasy books aren't like short books. Like the zombie book is it's about 65,000 words, I think. So not a long read, 250 pages, something like that. But you know, my other books, like the last book of the series that I wrote was 170,000 words. So I mean, it's a big book, but I was able to consistently publish one book a year up until this year where I published 2. So I did spend the last five years publishing a book a year, and I probably started writing back in 2016, working on this series. And you know, the premise behind it is that you have this group of kids in the town that I grew up in. So it kind of started off as a very nostalgic writing for me. So Petersburg, it's also where Abraham Lincoln spent his early adulthood, and then he surveyed the streets of Petersburg. And I was able to then kind of take a little bit of my childhood and some of the kids that I knew back then and create my characters kind of loosely based off of some of that. So I've got this group of kids that are kind of outcast, and essentially they find this old journal behind the wall of the basement wall in this Victorian home. And that sets them on this adventure of trying to understand, you know, it's in bad shape, and they've got to figure out how to get it apart and not disintegrate. And one of the kids is real nerdy and smart, and he figures out how to kind of create a humidifying chamber and out of a garbage bag and a humidifier. And so anyway, it kind of keeps it a slow, one page at a time. And they're trying to follow this old water-stained map to figure out where it's taking them, right? So there's that story going on, and there's a bully, and there's just a lot happening in that little storyline. And then we jump over to the female, who is the daughter of a world-renowned archaeologist, and she gets to go and spend the summers with her dad on these digs because he's not married to her mom anymore. So she spends the summers with him and goes on these dig sites. And ultimately, you know, the fun for the reader, I think, is you're going back and forth between these two stories, and this magical catalyst will be discovered. It will release magic into the world, and then all the consequences that come along with that, and the villains that we have enter into the picture. And then, of course, how these two stories come together is a lot of fun because it doesn't feel like it's so far away. How are these two going to come together? And then, you know, ultimately they do. And there's some romance in there too. You know, obviously it's YA, so no sex or anything like that, sexual content, but there's certainly some romance and friendship and loyalty and all those things as well.
Well, those are all like the makings of a great YA series. And I did see a comment pop up a little bit ago, so I was going to bring it up, asking, what do you think the divorce rate is during a zombie apocalypse? So I thought that was...
Divorce, or does one just feed the other to the zombies, right?
Yeah, well, you know, we had like our own apocalypse recently, and you know how did that affect relationships? You know, it's kind of that similar scenario, except this one you're running as well. You're not hiding in your house; you're running for your life.
You don't have things trying to get in your house, right?
That's
Other than COVID, I guess.
Yes, but yeah, going back to your YA one, I think that's some of the fun things about writing fantasy or magic in our world. comes from two different kind of main streams. One, magic's there, but maybe you don't realize it. Or two, you let magic come to your into your world somehow. It just spawns while you're going through your adventure. And thank you for thank you for that. But now laughing. That's a new one on me. And there's a little dog. I love it. but oh, I'm losing my train of thought with all these stickers. But yeah, I think that's kind of cool because I think a lot of the ones that recently that I've read set in our world, magic's always been there. Maybe you realize it was there, maybe you don't, maybe you're part of it, maybe you're not. But it's nice and refreshing to see one where all of a sudden it's drawn in.
Yeah, magic. So in my story, magic was here thousands of years ago, but was buried and hidden away, and now it's a rediscovery. So it's been gone. Nobody remembers it, and then we bring it back, and along with it, we bring all the fun stuff like sentient trees, dragons, giants, all that fun stuff. So
let chaos reign. And but yeah, for you, what is one of your favorite non-human entities that you have written in your YA series? Since you said that series is now complete, or I know you have
that series is complete, and I have a couple. I have a villain whose name he's a bully. His name's Jack. Ultimately, and I'm not trying to give away too many spoilers here. I see Addie's on here. I know she's reading it right now. But there's this really awesome two-headed dragon, and the relationship between the two-headed dragon and this evil character becomes pretty focal point of the series. And he's awful, but I really like that. I just had so much fun writing him, and would find myself like, what is wrong with you when I'm like talking to him, when I'm writing him, I'm like, oh, you're off, so that was a lot of fun to write him, and his, character. But then I also have a tree entity, because I come into like sentient trees by the end of book 2 and into book 3, and that becomes a big part of book 3, and even the cover. I'd love to show you the cover for book 3. It's one of my favorites, but the cover I know it gets a little glary, but you can see it's called The Days of Myth, and there's a tree, half human looking, and then you got the three-headed dragon in the background. She is wicked and fun, and the way I wrote my trees is I based it all on trees that exist, and then I used like famous trees, named trees, old trees, and I created a whole hierarchy in the tree queendom, and she's the queen of all trees. So she's really awesome. Another character's name is Governess, who's a shape-shifting tree. She's a favorite of mine. So I've got some really fun, I think, creative characters. I want to see what Addie's yelling at me already. I've wanted to yell at you so badly for the Godstone series. Otto, stop messing with me. Yeah, I love the random text I get from Addie sometimes where she's mad at me. And she's like, I can't believe this. And she messages me, and I'm like, keep reading. Yeah.
Well, the last time I was on a live, one of the points we were talking about was the fact that one of those core goals, I feel like you may be aware of it or not, is to reach people on some emotional level. So you want those people to be like, angry, how dare you take me on this roller coaster or whatnot, because that means at least you're reaching them. Your writing is impacting someone in some way.
That's right. It looks like she's already met the dragon because she mentioned his name. So yeah, I love that, by the way. Don't stop doing that, Addie. When you're mad at me, go ahead and message me and let me know. It really fills my heart with joy when you do that. So I love it.
Let me ask you, because I love mythology. I absolutely adore mythology of all sorts. And so when I hear animated trees, obviously a lot of people think of Ents, but Ents come from the Green Man of like Europe. So did you know any of like background lore, or did it just be like, you know what? I think this is cool. Both are perfectly awesome ways to.
I don't know. I mean, I know what I researched. I've read a lot of Tolkien stuff, so I know how he did Ents, right? But I wanted to go really deep, and I wanted to use trees that exist. So, there's a lot of really cool trees. And then I I set rules around it. So if you're a tree that's over 100 years old, you get the ability to have movement, right? And if you're a cloning tree, because there are trees that clone off of themselves, and the actual oldest, the oldest like living thing on our planet is a grove of trees that clone themselves. They're actually in the States here. So I used all those different things and gave different rules. So if you can clone, then you can shapeshift. If you are over 100 years old, you can move. If you're less than 100 years old, you're still bound. And then we find out like how trees communicate, how they've been communicating all along, but we just didn't know it. And then if you can imagine, if all the trees woke up today and became sentient, right, where they could move, and how pissed off would they be at us, right? Like, and I think one of my favorite lines that I wrote was, you owe me a pound of flesh for every pound of wood you've taken from us, something like that. And so they're not happy. They're not thrilled. You clear forests to create more room for cows to shit. Like that kind of stuff is how they perceive us. So.
And I think that is all fair. Because it is actually, if you're talking about like the actual environment and ways, the ecosystem, there are some really cool and almost like, no, that's like from some sci-fi kind of vibes that come out of the environment. For instance, like the concept of like the interlinking of certain trees or certain plants, and how they can kind of almost sense issues in the environment elsewhere because of the way they're connected. It is kind of cool and odd and strange. And makes you wonder how much are they, again, communicating.
Yeah, trees, this is a fact. Trees can see not see, maybe see is not the right word, but they know when another tree is under, they don't have enough nutrition, right? So they're struggling. They can give some of their nutrition to another tree. So that's crazy, right? That they can do that they can share nutrients with another tree that maybe isn't getting enough. So there's some interesting stuff that I researched about trees. And then I started wondering like, wow, are they communicating with each other? Are like they are on some level. So just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not happening, right?
It is, and an eerie idea, especially like you said, if they all became sentient, what would they think, and how would they react?
And we all live in like specifically me. I live in a log cabin, like so. I'm essentially living inside of dead trees. Yeah, they're probably not happy with me. I know that, So I mean, you think about it that way, it's kind of fun.
I was seeing a comment saying when they talked to James about how many trees he took out for a battle.
Yeah, that's a scene where there's a conversation that happens there. Yeah, that's right. I forgot all about that. W.L. Brooks. It's hard to keep all that stuff, straight, but you reminded me. Yeah, that's right.
That is, I don't know. I think that is really cool when you develop a fan or a reader who's just so passionate about your work that remembers the little details that as an author, it's honestly true that we kind of forget some of them over time just because we're thinking of the next story or the new project or whatever. You're like, oh yeah, that did exist. Oh yeah, that interaction happened. You're like, it's not like I wrote it or anything.
Yeah, it is, because started writing Secret Journal in 2016.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, I've listened to it on Audible because I listen when I have my books, and all my books are on Audible. And something I'll share that I haven't shared with anybody yet. I need to do an update video, but Rust Colored Rain is finished. So the Audible is complete for that one, and it is in the review phase. And ACX kind of holds the when it's going to be released is kind of up to them, but it's in quality control. So they go through like the image quality, and they go through the content quality and make sure the sound quality is right. And so they do I think it's like 4 steps. And so it's in that process. So it could be as soon as next week or January, however long ACX takes. And they've been pretty quick with most of my books.
Yeah, I think it takes up to 14 days on average for them to turn it around. Again, if they flag anything, then you have to start the process over, and then that extends it. But yeah, for me, it's like closer to like that 12 to 14 days when I've been able to turn out a audiobook. But that's so much fun. Are you excited about your voice actors or actor? 1, 2 more? I don't know.
Yeah, I actually went ahead and used the same voice actor for Rust Colored Rain. I wasn't going to be honest. I was gonna get somebody different just to. So AJ, who did my series, my YA series, is phenomenal. There is nothing I can throw at that guy that he can't do. And that means he does the male voices, the female voices, the dragons, the giants. I describe something as gargling gravel, he'll do it. If I describe something as a dual voice, speaks out of one head every other word, or a dragon who speaks out of both heads at the same time in two different tones, doesn't matter. This guy kills it every time. But his voice was it felt like very fresh and very like teenage, right? So it was perfect for this series. And so I was going to do something a little bit different, a little bit deeper, a little bit darker. And I just was so happy. And he was able to do the villains and stuff in my series so well. I said, look, how do you feel about doing Rust Colored Rain? And he actually, if you go on my page, he actually did a video where he reads the description on the back of the book and does it in his booth. So he reads Rust Colored Rain, the blurb, right? And he did a really good, ominous job with that. And I asked him, hey, how do you feel about it? And he said, I would love the challenge of doing it. And I said, it's got to be a little bit darker. It's got to be a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I got it. I'll do it. So I said, do it. Let's go. And so he's done it. And I've been really happy with the way this turned out. So I've listened to the whole thing already, which I do along the way. And everybody should do if you're producing Audible books, because you will find things that need to be fixed. No narrator, I don't think. No narrator's perfect. So you will see something, and I found, maybe 3 or 4 things that I had him changed, but for the most part, we cranked through that pretty quick. So, I released this in October, just before Halloween, and the Audible's done. So to me, that's really, that we did good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I had the opposite issue with one of mine. Unfortunately, the people who I hired for one of my series got a little, I think they bit off more than they could chew, because the idea was a huge voice cast and doing all sound effects or creating music, like the whole shebang, and it's taken forever. When I say forever, about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so process is going to be sped up after this, and which means, unfortunately, I may not be using the same group for the rest of the series, which irks me, but that was a little long. On the other hand, on average, the other book series are moving along at steady pace being converted, because that's atypically long.
Yeah, and it took AJ a little bit longer when I'm throwing a 165,000 word beast at him, but still he gets on it and goes after it. He's constantly sending me batches of chapters to review when we're going through it. Now this book didn't take him long, because honestly, it's the shortest thing I've ever written. I'm gonna. Sorry, if I get a hat, I gotta get stupid. So thank you for that. Was that Brooks who put a hat on me, a mustache? Awesome. Yeah. So no, AJ's great. I'm so excited. And I have people on a daily basis ask me, when's the Audible coming out? So I'm glad to be able to share that, and I'll do a video too with an update. Indeed. So that was her. Okay.
I love that. And yeah, I was gonna say, that is a hard thing of when you're going through at least the ACX platform, which is my only experience of releasing audio, is that you can't set a release date. You can't, as an author. You just have to be like, oh, surprise, it's out.
Yeah, that's how it works. Every time I submitted one, and 3 days later they released it, and I was like, hey guys, it's out. That's all you can do. I think Cave asked what genre is my novel. So YA fantasy for my completed series of 5 books, and then I guess horror for my zombie book, which is Rust Colored Rain, and I got it here. I had them all stacked up over here, but yeah, this is Rust Colored Rain. You can't do an invert on lives, which is too bad, but that's the cover. So yeah, that's and it is, and you mentioned TikTok Shop, so all my books are available in the TikTok Shop, and I do book boxes that I feel are pretty involved. I spend quite a bit of time on them, from what goes into them to the packaging and the wrapping and everything. So if you get a book box from me, you're going to get a top-notch box. That's the idea, and I spend quite a bit of time in the evenings wrapping books and getting them ready to ship. Now, on the zombie book, I do offer it. It's the only one I offer this way, but I offer it in paperback or hardback. I was just completely sold out of books and did just get another shipment of paperbacks in. So I have paperbacks in the shop right now, but I don't have hardbacks, but I've got them on order. Amazon takes longer on hardbacks. So
I know that.
yeah, but and I'll tell you what, it's 50-50. I was curious, like when I put both these in the shop, is everybody just going to want the hardback or people, but they don't. It's really a mix. I'd say it's about 50-50. Half the people want paperback, half the people want hardback. Now the hardback costs about $5 more if you're doing a box from my shop. And I think you guys should look at, if you're not buying books out of the TikTok shop, you should check it out because TikTok, and I don't know how they can continue to do this, but they're offering things like free shipping. If you haven't purchased anything out of the TikTok shop before, they're going to give you like a $20 coupon. I've had people buy my book for a penny. Now, the author, and I bought somebody's book my first time for a penny because it was $20 and they gave me a coupon for $19.99 on a purchase $20 or greater is the way that works. So I purchased a book for a penny. Now the author still gets all their money. So it doesn't hurt the author if you're getting a deal on a book out of the shop. I've seen people get all kinds of stuff. And then I see Addie said, I got a massive sale on my Godstone set. Yeah, I saw that. I sell that set already discounted. So I do a big bundle, a big book box with all 5 of my fantasy books. And I sell that set for $100, right? And then TikTok seems to, will reduce that even further for people and give them deals. And, my Godstone series sells for $25 a piece in the shop. So $20 a book if you buy all 5. And again, you're going to get things like, if you buy all 5, you're going to get a map, you're going to get stickers, you're going to get bookmarks, you're going to get all the wrapping and the fancy stuff. And then the zombie box, as it's been coined, is fun because I actually take blood red paint, and I stamp the boxes with my handprint. I don't know if you've seen those or not, but so I stamp them with my handprint, which is another step that I've done this to myself, but so I'll do like 20 boxes at a time and just stand there. And I even did a video on that. So I do the red stamp, and then I've got like the bloody fill in there and the bloody paper that they get wrapped in and a bunch of different stuff. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely gaining some traction. I get a shipment of books in, and I'm having to order more frequently and stuff. So.
And because I just opened up my shop like a couple weeks ago, I'm still trying to figure out again how much stock I should keep and all that. But yeah, it is a lot of fun creating your like little book packages and for bundles, and I just shipped a couple out today. But you add in like you said, the perks, the stickers, and all that, and because fantasy, and the thing is I rediscovered my love of origami. I do like origami swords and sheaths and battle axes and dragons and all this stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love that.
Make it all unique and everything, but yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the stock question because it takes so long for Amazon to send authors their authors' copies. It takes so long. And I never know how far in advance to put another order in. Still learning.
Yep. It is. It's interesting because when you first open it up, you don't know how well you're going to do. You don't know, am I going to sell 1 book a day? I've sold up to like 10 books in one day. And then I'm like, oh my God. And then TikTok puts you on a clock, by the way. So you've got a certain amount of time to get those books shipped. So, or they punish you and then you get like marks against your shop and stuff. And you don't want to do that. So you've really got to stay on top of it, which is fine. But you do need to pay attention. And the other thing that I've started doing that I didn't create this idea, but, and it's way too much work, but I'm doing it. I saw like, Zach Diamante do this. And then I saw, a few other, Marshall, he did this. I saw a few other people doing it, but basically you buy a map and you update the map with the pins on where you shipped books.
Yes, I'm hoping to do that too soon.
Well, it's a ton of work. That is time consuming because here I am over here on a computer looking up. I've got a list of 30 addresses or cities and states, and then I'm over here on a computer looking for it, and then I'm on the map, and these maps don't have all the cities on it. So if it's a tiny town, it's not on the map. So you got to kind of figure out where it is, and then you record yourself pinning it. And anyway, you do these map updates. They're a lot of work, but it's fun, and I think that also is another way to market and drive people to your shop when they see you updating your map on where you're shipping books all over the country. So
I met Zach face to face in November recently, and I was asking him, I was like, I know you do this, and you're like the king of the pinning. Can I copycat you? He's like, yeah, totally. Yeah. I was like, thank you. So one of the things is, hopefully for Christmas, I put a request in for one of the family members to get me a scratch off map for the initial satisfaction of when you get your first state, you can scratch that off visually and then put the pin in. We'll see because again, new and I'm as big as some of you guys out there. I'm still baby author, but I'm trying to keep up. Trying
Baby
to
author, you have like 3 series and like how many books have you published? Like 15? I would not call you a baby author.
be author in the sense is I'm horrible at marketing myself. I'm just like I'm here, guys. I'm just chilling in the sidelines.
Well, here's how cool this community is. So we talked about Zach, right? When Zach first got started, I've been on TikTok longer than him, but he blew up on a couple of his videos, and he said, "Hey, Otto, I've been he started following me right when we started following each other right when he got on, and he said, I want to do a book box. Can you help me like figure?" So I was like messaging with him on figuring out like what he needs and where he can get what he needs for his book box. And he did some things in there that I don't do. He's got like tea, like you get tea, special custom tea and stuff. So he's definitely got creative with it. But yeah, I was like sharing where to get the boxes, what kind of filling I use, different things. And when I wanted to open up my shop, he'd already opened up his shop. So I called him and we were on the phone. He walked me through like getting my shop set up. I think we spent maybe 45 minutes or so on the phone, like setting up my shop. And he was kind of walking me through a bunch of stuff. So that's just an example of how awesome, this group of people is. And we can reach out to each other and share. And, I told him, I'm like, hey man, I want to do that map thing. And he's like, do it. That. So it's so fun. And it's such a fun community to share and help each other out. I just love it.
Oh, I do. I was going to say this is one of my, this is my favorite place to hub at the bookish community at the moment. And anytime I hear someone who loves books is just like, I'm avoiding book talk, and I'm like, but why? Who hurt you? Why? But like it's such a nice place, and that brings me to a question. Actually, I do like ask certain types of questions throughout my lives. One is where can people find and follow you when they're not hubbing on book talk? Like, do you have a website? What are your other socials?
AutoSchafer.com. And I do have a mailing list. I am the worst newsletter person. I get some folks like Brooks, I get her newsletter. JC, I get her newsletter. So good at newsletters. And I just am like updating maps and making zombie videos or whatever kind of videos I'm making and working 10 hours a day in my day job career, trying to write the next book that people keep asking me when it's going to be out. So it's like newsletters are tough for me. I'll once in 6 months maybe send something out saying this is happening, right? Like I'll send out something about this Audible book and talk a little bit, but they're so good at those. And not only are they good at it, but they lift everybody else up too. Like both have featured my books in their newsletters. So my point is I do have a newsletter. You asked a question, where can people hook up? I do have a newsletter. You can sign up for it on my website. You won't get spammed and you'll be lucky to hear from me once every couple months. But I need to be better about it, but that's another way. Let's see. That's ottoschafer.com. So that's easy one to find. I am on Instagram. I have a link tree in my profile that'll take you to all that stuff in my, and you can even get, if you don't like to shop or you don't trust shopping through TikTok, I know some people are weird about it. I also provide a Google form that you can fill out, and then I will invoice you through PayPal to sell signed copies that way too. And believe it or not, I still get probably half, maybe not half now, but it's pretty close. People ordering, like, I think I've done over 30 books since October of the zombie book just through the Google form. And I also have the Google form for the Godstone series as well. So you can get there, and all my link tree will take you to everywhere you can get a hold of me. And I'm on Facebook too.
I have noticed that, again, just brand new to selling direct, is that I also have another shop on my website, which also sells more stuff than I do here. For instance, my ebooks and all that kind of stuff go through there as well. But it is interesting to see that even though people find me here, which option they use, because some people are more comfortable certain ways than others, and I am all about that. That's why I offer variety.
Right.
I'm here for you. But as for the newsletter, okay, this is my thing, and I still have to figure out how to incorporate it for mine. I do them about monthly, twice a month if I have like something super special to announce, like, oh, again, the audiobook pops up in the middle of the month kind of thing. But one of the cool things that I heard about recently, and I love this idea, so I'm sharing this around because it's a brilliant idea. I don't know how to do it because I'm not techie yet, so I'm going to figure this out. But it doesn't matter how much, how big, how short your newsletter is, but have like a 3 or 4 sentence ender where it's the beginning of a story, and then say choose A or B and have your readers vote. And the next time, whenever that is, you continue the story on based on what they voted and say, here's the next couple sentences, and do these little snippets. And it's just something fun that encourages your people to come and check in, but it's nothing like crazy. It's like 3 or 4 sentences. I love this idea.
Cool. I love that idea too.
I don't know how to do it, but I love it.
Then what do you think? Will you then take that story and create like a novella, or will you take wherever you end up with and maybe edit that and publish it at some point?
I don't know if I would, but I think it's just a fun interactive thing. And plus, your readers who are passionate about you, you're using your words, kind of steering the story, but it's just a fun interactive thing where you're all co-creating something, whatever it is, something. And it's just a way to stay connected. I don't know. I thought that was a cute little idea. Hello, South Carolina.
I think it's a really cool idea. So I'll tell you that my editor, she did a blog, and what she did, and I don't think she intended to do this, but she intended to do the first part. The first part was, I am going to read a book on writing, a book on craft, right? Art craft, every week for a year. So every week she would read a book and then she would blog it, right? And then when she got to the end of that year, she took all of that and then published it into a book called All the Words, which I have on my shelf and I have read. But basically, it's nice because it's this book that, and I know like there's a few people here. I know Kami has it, but it's nice because you think of things like, Bird by Bird, or you think of what's the Save the Cat? Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which is probably one of my favorites on writing. She read all those, and then she gives you like a little summary about it and what you can potentially learn from that or whatever. And then you can make a decision from there. Is that worth me investing in? And so it's a really cool resource.
Ooh, that's nice. And it was called what again? I'm gonna note this down in my.
It's called All the Words, and it's by Kristen Tate.
Thank you. See, I always learn something every time, and that's why I'm trying to be better about keeping a little notepad, because there's always going to be that little gemstone that pops up throughout a conversation. You're like, ooh, I want to remember that. If I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember.
Well, I recently posted my review of her book, and I did it from a cold plunge.
Was that the one? Or is that I did see.
Yeah, my wife's trying to talk me into doing some more of those, but that was brutal. I do want to do it again, but yeah, it was.
No.
Yeah.
It looked unpleasant enough. No. Sorry, my dog might pop into the screen in a moment. He's trying to sniff around. Excuse me, lose my voice. Also, one of the other questions I like to ask as well is, obviously we talked about the TikTok shop for finding your stuff. Where else can people find your books? We talked about ACX for your Audible audiobook.
Yeah, so Audible, and then everything is on. I'm enrolled in Kindle Unlimited with everything, and it's not that I have anything against going wide or any of that. It's just I just don't have time. I feel like I work 2 full-time jobs at this point, right? There's the writing and marketing, and then my day job, and I don't think I have time at this point in my life or career to do anything more. So you can find everything I've written on Amazon, and it is Kindle Unlimited. So if you're subscribed, you can do that. And I do a lot. I mean, page reads are kind of where it's at for me right now with most of my books, because I am enrolled in Kindle Unlimited. So that's That's pretty big. But yeah, you can buy them there. You can, I think, the Secret Journal, Amazon enrolled it into their Prime Reading, which is, I don't know if have you ever had that where they enroll. I didn't hear you.
No, I have not. Yeah.
Okay, so they sent me an email and asked if they could put my book in. So what happens is I don't get anything for it, but the idea, I guess, is your book goes from, millions of books in the Amazon store to now it's in this like group of 15,000 books that are offered in the Prime Reading. So if you have Prime, Amazon Prime, then you can read books that are in the Prime store. And so that is in there. And it's only for a period of time, and then they'll take it out. So for like a 3 months period, it'll be in there. And you can read it if you have Prime. You can read it for free. And I guess the why would an author do that is, well, I would do that because hopefully if you read it, then you'll go on and read the rest of the series, right?
Hook 'em. I get that. I definitely do. And I mean, I started out through KU for a while, and only this year started trying to transition, but it takes time because you're learning a lot. Transition my work, so it will be theoretically fully wide at some point next year is my goal, but stage 2 ended up being direct sales. So all but one of my books right now you can find on my website shop as well. So that's like the stage 2 of like distribution and then down the line. And hey, guess what? If it doesn't work, I can always backwards and go back to KU. And that's a nice thing is you test out, you figure out what works and what you have time and money for, because both of those things are limited. Time and money.
Right. So, and I'm really interested in how that, selling on your website, is that going well?
It's been only a couple weeks, and I haven't actually marketed the fact that I have my ebooks on there much yet because I did both. I opened the shop here and it linked it to the website. So trying to manage that first, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't been talking about the fact that there are ebooks up there too. But
how does that delivery work? If someone buys a physical copy from your website, who fulfills that? Is that you or?
So it depends. Like if they're going through the book talk shop, obviously,
Right.
kind of like what you're saying is, at the moment, this TikTok will help cover the shipping, and that's all kind of nice. But because it's synced to my website, the numbers drop and all that stuff. So my website tracks all the sales and says TikTok's going through that fulfillment. Technically, it's still you, but it's all listed that way. If someone buys through my website, because I use Shopify, then I'm still covering shipping on top of all that. But fulfillment's me regardless. But
That was my question. So you're fulfilling the orders no matter where they're buying them, if it's outside of your platforms, right? Okay, that makes sense then. That's what's kept me from like trying to explore. I have a nice website. I built it, so I say it's nice. I'm impressed with it because I have literally no knowledge on how to do that stuff. So I was like, people ask like, how do you learn this stuff? Well, I did a lot of podcasts initially, and the self-publishing show was one of them. And they had an author on there named Joanna Penn. Do you know that name by chance?
Sounds familiar, but I cannot place the face on that one.
So Joanna Penn, she's pretty big. She's on self-publishing show quite often, and she's got her own website, and she's published a bazillion books, and she's published a whole bunch of books on how-to books. But so that drove me to her website. So when I went to her website, she gave a whole bunch of resources, and so that's where I was like, okay, so I'm going to use WordPress, and I'm going to use these specific things because that's what they said to do. And as I researched it, it was like, okay, that makes sense. So I built my own WordPress website, and it's okay, but I don't sell. I just have links. Like you can click on my book and it'll take you to Amazon, right? But I don't fulfill anything from my website at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's kind of like, well, you're practically doing it right now through this shop and your forms. I mean, it's the same process. It's just, yes, there is that stage 2. And for me, since I use Wix as my host for my website, figuring out Shopify and Wix and, all that kind of stuff. So it took me a while to do just to understand how to do the behind the scenes things. But so far it's going smoothly, pretty well. And it's nice now because, again, not being KU, I am able to distribute ebooks and route them that way as well. So that's kind of a fun thing that
Okay.
I've
So
figured out.
you deliver the ebook too, like you use BookFunnel or something?
Yes,
Or
so I had to figure out book funnel again. It took me like about 6 months behind the scenes going, what am I trying to do? Am I ever going to figure this out? Because I am not techie. And then once I actually did it, I was like, oh, I don't know why I was so scared. It wasn't, it did take some time. I did have to dedicate some, evenings and all that, but it really wasn't as terrible as I, in my head, thought it was going to be.
yeah, so I use BookFunnel, and when you go to my website and you sign up for my mail list and you get the first like 3 chapters, it's BookFunnel who delivers that to the
So
to
you
the.
already have, there you go.
So what's that?
I said, so you already have book funnel. So if
I
you
do. I
decided to,
do. I don't think I utilize it. I pay for it. I don't utilize it to probably the extent that I could. You can use it for ARC readers and all kinds of different things. And I did send some digital copies to BookFunnel when I was getting ready to publish Rust Colored Rain. So I'll use it for that. But I mean, I don't. I know I'm not using it as much as I could be using it. I know my mailing list isn't as good as it should be. I use ConvertKit for my email list. So I have those things in place. I just probably don't spend the time I should probably spend on it, right? I'll spend time making a video instead or something. Or, you know,
how they value their time and energy. And, I have projects going on for the next 3 years in my back of my mind, and, I'll adjust it accordingly. But you have to figure out what is going to give you the best bang of the buck short term versus long term, and what you just have to figure it out. And so I try to do a little bit of both. Okay, this is the stuff that's going to help me right now, so yes, I want to put some energy in that, but I also want to make sure periodically I am stepping forward into whatever the goal is. At last year that was trying to dabble with Kickstarter, so this year
I know AP was on here. He's probably not now because it's got to be like really late where he's at. It's gonna be like 1 in the morning, right? 6 hours different. Yeah. But his Kickstarters that got him going was phenomenal. Um, he did great with that. And I've looked at Kickstarter very little, and it is probably something that, I should spend the time to learn, and maybe I will, because he's done phenomenal with it. I mean, I love that he was able to. Adam was a nurse before. I know you probably know this, but for anybody on here, Adam was a nurse, and then he was able to run a incredibly successful Kickstarter, um, quit his day job, become a full time writer, and now he's just. I mean, he's the stuff he's doing is pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, he was interviewed by the BBC like last week or something. Like I was just like wild, and I also was able to meet him last month at 20 Books to 50K, and so we were talking about some of the stuff, and it is so wild, and it gives you hope. If you're a
Yeah.
baby author or a writer who wants to be an author, yes, you can make a living off this. You can, but you have to also figure out the best steps to take in what order and start making that effort. And I did see a comment pop up saying, I hope someday I hope to write a book, but I have to get my ideas in a coherent narrative somehow, which I understand. Sometimes that can be hard, is that sketching it out and then taking the next step of putting words to paper.
Yeah, yeah, it can be. So here's my advice. I didn't sketch out anything, just sit down and start writing. If you wait for the right time or you wait to get everything organized, you might not do it. My advice would be sit down and just see what comes out. I wrote, I think about my stories a lot going through my day, driving to work, driving home. I'm always thinking, but I don't plot anything. And I'm not saying that works for everybody either. I know plotter, pantser, discovery writer, we could have a lot of discussion around that. But I'm just saying, just sit down and see what happens. And this is my rule. This is how I get my writing done. And I think you could speak to this very well because you have a lot of books you've published. But for me, I set very attainable goals that seem to most people like that's it. But I have a full time career. So what I do is I write 500 words a day. That's my goal. That's not very many words. It doesn't take that long if you sit down and do it. And even in days when I don't want to do it, I sit down and try to make myself move the story forward 500 words. And sometimes I write a couple thousand words. And then there are days when I just don't get to write, for whatever reason. But I look at my monthly average, I track it on a spreadsheet, and I go, okay, I hit 15,000 words, or maybe I even got 20,000 words this month. Do that a few months in a row, and you've got a book. So little bitty steps, right? Little bites. If you can, piranhas eat a lot in little bites, right? You don't have to be a shark. You can do that. And I used to do that. I used to not write all week long, and then I would on the weekend I would be like, okay, I got to write like 5,000. I got to write like 5,000 words, and it's so much pressure on myself to get so much done. And and the other thing too is it pulled me a week away from my story. If you can write every day and stay in the story, I really feel like that's for me been the best way to do it. Write every day, achievable goals, and your book will come. That's really it. That's what I do.
And and it develops a good habit. Like I say good habit because I think writing's great, but like you develop a habit of sitting down and doing it, and it just becomes part of your daily routine, which makes it then again that much easier to sit down and theoretically put maybe your 500 words down, or maybe you end up with, like you said, a couple thousand. You're like, oh, that's amazing. I try to write every day during the midweek. I'm a full-time writer and artist at this moment, so I do have that perk that my day can be dedicated and turned in differently, and that is not the case for most people, and I understand that. But I do try to make sure I have these are my hours that I'm going to sit down, and this is kind of my goal of, page count, word count, whatever my goal is a day, and make it attainable for me. And yeah, so you have to just figure out your own schedule and decide, what is something that's achievable. 50 words? 500? You never know. You start somewhere, you can always up it later on. But
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It doesn't have to be 500 either. That's just what is attainable, what I consider to be an attainable goal for me. It might be 100 words for you. It might be 1,000 words for you, or whatever. It's different for everybody. But yeah, whatever you can do, I can do that. That sounds, I can do that, right? In 30 minutes, I can do that. And then just do it. And then I saw him also say, I think it was Cave said, struggling with the ending of getting to the ending. I would say, look, I wrote The Secret Journal, and then I also wrote Keepers of the Light. I just want to show you this for an example. I wrote these two books in one book and had to split it because I couldn't end mine either. And when I got with my editor and we started working through it, we found a spot where we said, look, with some work, with some rewriting and stuff, this is where you should end the book. And so we split it, not an even split. And then I had to go back on The Secret Journal and do some rework to get it to where it needed to be, which was great. And I learned a lot from that experience. But yeah, I would say, just the other thing too is the end of the book can come at the end of the book. Write the rest of it, right? And I don't know. Now the ending comes natural for me as I write. I know I can see it out there. Same thing with chapter endings. They just come natural to me on where it's going to happen. But, it didn't happen that way for me at first. So the writing is a journey, and you'll, get there as you work through it.
yeah, and like all journeys, you have to take the first step. The journey can be very long. Just gotta take that first step, and then the second, and the third, and we're getting somewhere at some point. So that's always a good thing. So let me also ask, because it's now we're reaching that hour. Hours always sprint by, I feel like, when I do the chats. But one thing I always want to make sure I ask is, was there any questions that you have that you wanted to ask that you hadn't had a chance, or any topics you wanted to cover that we did not get a chance to cover so far? And the same goes for anybody who's watching. Ask away.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could talk about this topic for hours, right? An hour's not much time to really to delve into this stuff with another writer. So it's tricky, but I'm curious for marketing and advertising. What are you doing? Are you doing anything outside of any kind of paid ads, or how do you market your books?
I have on and off for a long time tried paid ads. Amazon never figured it out, and who knows, but never figured that one out. And put a lot of money in it and got some people to try to help, but just whatever. Facebook has worked on and off again, and that one it's I think part of the changing algorithm always, and also trying to learn how to better market myself, knowing that, especially when it comes to my earlier on series, I wrote them as passion projects, not thinking, oh, this is the target market I want in mind. So it is kind of hard to be pitching a series when you're like, well, what books are it like? What can I give that relatability to? So some of that also is learning how to market myself. But I still am running Facebook ads. I'm constantly always trying to tweak and test them. Sometimes they'll work and then they work very, very well, but then eventually it peters out because algorithms change or you've hit that niche and you need a refresh, and I'm bad about figuring out how to refresh. So they're not my favorite thing. Yes, I have tried them. I do think social media is the better way to get people because they get to know you as a person and they get to hear a lot more about your book than a one-click ad. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree a lot with a lot of what you said. So Amazon has never worked for me either. Marketing, it just hasn't. And then even with this newer book, I was getting a ton of clicks, but I tried it again and I was getting a ton of clicks and I was getting some page reads, but I'm still spending more than I'm getting a return on. And so I think I just lowered all my bids way down, but I'm probably going to shut that off. And it wouldn't be the first time. I've just never had luck. I've never had luck with it. And I have taken, Dawson's courses, on a lot of that stuff too. And Facebook though has been good, especially with this new book. Again, I think it's because, people talk about like, I don't want to write a book to market because I want to write what I want to write. And I get that. And that's great. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But then I also see people say, I want to write what I want to write. And then they get frustrated when nobody's buying their book, right? Because they wrote this. And I would say a little bit, that was me in my first series, right? Is I wanted to write, like I said, YA contemporary fantasy, not the easiest thing to market. Now I did the right things, professional cover designers, editors. You want to give good quality, right? You want to give the best quality that you can. So that's really important. And so I love those stories, but and I don't regret writing it at all. I just think that I'm just as passionate writing this zombie series, and people are it's just taken off. And I think it's because you just easily see what you're going to get with it, right? It's a zombie apocalypse thriller. If you're into like Walking Dead and you're into Black Summer and you're into Day of the Dead and Night of the Living, you're going to like this. You're probably going to like it. If you like zombies, you're probably going to like it. So I think that's been helpful for sure. And the Facebook ad is really doing good, like really good on this one. So yeah, I just keep watching it every day. And that's really the bulk of it. It's TikTok, Instagram. Some of my Instagram stuff gets posted over to Facebook, and then it's my Facebook ad. And that's what I'm doing.
I do notice that I get a lot more chatter when I repurpose reels of videos from here onto other platforms, and that does catch a lot more attention, and I do see more followers come that way, and followers, if they follow long enough, usually end up being buyers. So it's just different ways to funnel people, but in the point being is people want to know what they're getting, and yes, I'm definitely a person, especially with a couple of my series, where I wrote what I wanted to write, and marketing's a nightmare. Not to say that they aren't good, and not to say when people read them, they enjoy them, but it's, again, trying to find the right person. But going forward, I also, over the years, have developed a better awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good thing to note because that's a great way to pitch it. Or, okay, that's a relatable TV show that someone could be like, the connections. I'm just more conscientious of those things, and I think that helps going forward, too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I see a couple comments.
Good way to look at it. Get a peek behind the curtain. Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Sorry. I was just pointing out the comments. Well, for Apocalypse, can't get traction for a multi-genre book in any platform. Sometimes that's hard. It's just trying to find, I don't know. I feel like also different platforms do better with different genres too. Yep. But maybe that's just
you said something though. I want to make sure I say this too. Like the people who read my series, the Godstone series, they love it. But again, it's like you said, it's finding it's getting it in front of people. It's finding that market that's the challenging part. It's not the books.
Oh, did I lose you?
Oh no, I'm still here. Are you still there?
Yeah. Sorry, I was glitching for a second there.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's
You're good.
Can you hear me okay now? Am I there?
Yes.
Okay. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. It's it's just hard to find the it's just hard to find the readers. When they read it, they love it, but it's just hard to find them, right?
Hmm. And it's again, we're trying to learn how to better find you as the reader, and it's a jungle out there. There's a lot of books, there's a lot of authors, and it's just trying to figure out how to be like, hey, I'm over here.
Yeah.
Please note me. I'm here. Hopefully you like it. Take my book. Enjoy the story. But
Right.
it's one of those processes. I think no matter where you are in your game, you can always learn how to improve on marketing your own work because we love it, and it's so funny. You immerse yourself for however long into creating your story, yet trying to pitch it in a sentence or two. That's a hard thing.
Yeah, it is. Blurbs are brutal. Writing a blurb or writing ad copy or any of that stuff is really hard. Yeah.
Very true. Okay, well, I will say this and crossing fingers that this platform will play nice, but if possible, I will be repurposing this video onto my YouTube channel and adding all your links below. So hopefully you can get more people to find and follow you and get your work going forward because, again, that is a tough thing.
Yeah, and either way, it was really nice to get to spend some time with you. And I've watched, we've been following each other for quite a while, and I watched a lot of your videos, and I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me. That's great.
Well, thank you for coming out and talking with me. I've been wanting to catch up with you and to kind of have a face-to-face chat with you for a while. And I know life gets complicated and busy, and it's hard to schedule these things. But if you ever want to do another one of these, I do them weekly, but I plan well in advance. Couple months in advance usually, because scheduling time is limited. Well, thank you for everybody who has been watching and hanging out with us, and thank you for joining me again, Otto. And I will say goodnight because my dog keeps coming in the door, which is my sign that it is time to take him out the door. So,
Okay. Thank you, guys. Bye, everybody.